Hello, and welcome back to our CAEL Prep series. Today, we're going to continue to work on our writing skills. So over the last couple of episodes, we have focused mostly on paragraph writing. We've been looking at how to revise our writing to improve any little writing mistakes and content areas that we need to really polish our work. Today, we're going to add on to another step. We're going to look at how different paragraphs will fit together to form an essay. Now, on the CAEL test, you will be asked to write an essay. This is the long writing question that happens in part 4 of CAEL. I'd like to start off by showing what a proper essay structure looks like. So looking here at the screen, you should notice immediately that all of the writing has been correctly chunked into different paragraphs. There are 4 of them in total. And that's what an essay does. It groups ideas correctly into an organized fashion. The very first paragraph in an essay is always going to introduce first the topic, but it's going to include a thesis statement. The thesis is the main idea that the entire essay is going to support. This will be the answer to the question that you're being asked. The middle paragraphs, and in this case, you can see there are 2 body paragraphs, we call them. These middle paragraphs are going to contain all of the specific details that will actually support the position or support the idea that you've identified in your opening. Now, on the CAEL test, most of your details will come from the source material. So you'll be pulling examples out of the reading and the listening sections. And again, you'll use those details within the middle part of your essay itself. It's knowing how to organize those details that can be challenging, though, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Looking at this essay example, the last thing you should notice, I hope, is that there's a very short concluding paragraph right at the end. So the conclusion of an essay pretty much summarizes the main points that have been made, and it sometimes might include a next step or a thought ahead about the future action. So again, this is proper essay structure. This is not. Please never submit an essay or a long piece of writing that looks like one gigantic paragraph. So you'll notice at the bottom here, we still have a distinct concluding paragraph. But there are actually 3 paragraphs that have been combined into that one large top one. When we submit writing like this, it makes it really difficult for the reader to understand where one idea is beginning and ending, and then the next main idea starts as well. Each paragraph is supposed to talk about one main topic. So again, combining them all into one like this is a really poor way to go. On the CAEL test itself, the raters are looking for many skill sets, as you can see here. This checklist is actually what they'll use to assess your writing on the test, and they'll give you a score accordingly. In this episode, though, we're going to focus predominantly on organization. So we are going to look at how we can create that thesis statement, have an introduction. We would, of course, in the writing portion, connect ideas together. But in this episode, we're focusing a lot on numbers 3 and 4 here from the organization section. We want to see how well our ideas can be organized into proper paragraph form. Because again, if we can't do that on the test, it will have a very negative impact on the score. So this is an outline, if you will. This is a way to envision in your own mind what your essay is going to look like once you start typing it out on the test. So we're going to follow a 4-paragraph structure for the purpose of this practice. You might have more paragraphs. I think on the CAEL test, because you're given only 35 minutes to write the long essay, I think having 2 middle paragraphs is probably a good number. Some of us might be very fast and squeeze in a 3rd paragraph, but in 35 minutes after we gather our ideas, most of us will likely focus on those 2 middle paragraphs. Now, on the CAEL test itself, the question that you're going to be given for the long writing is going to ask you to select a position and then to pull details out of the reading and the listening sources in order to support your ideas. We're going to simplify things a little bit today as we really fine-tune our essay organization. So the question that we're going to look at today, instead of selecting a position to support, we're actually going to use a comprehension question. This is the same question that we looked at in the previous 2 episodes that helped us write out some paragraphs. So we're going to continue using the same question and build on it from there to actually create a full 4-paragraph structure that answers the question accurately. So the question says, based on the reading passage, How have changes to sports equipment improved performance at the Olympic Games? So again, I'll point out quickly that on your actual CAEL test, you will be required to use details from the reading and listening. But again, for today's episode, to simplify things, we're going to focus only on the reading passage. So again, this question is a little bit different from what you would have on the long writing section of CAEL. But the focus again of today's episode is to learn how to structure the essay. So again, we'll use just the reading source so we can really focus on how to pull ideas out of the text. So before we actually start looking at the reading source itself, we have to get our minds around what this question is asking us to do. This is how you're going to start your time on the test. So the majority of the long reading passages on CAEL would be about 8 to 9 paragraphs in length. So what we would have to do then, we're going to, for this question, you're going to scan through the reading passage. You're going to look quickly to see if your eyes can identify any examples of sports equipment. That's step number one, because that's what this question is asking us to do. So once we notice an example of a sporting equipment, we're then going to keep reading to see how that equipment has been improved or changed. If the passage gives us that information, well, then we need to keep reading because this detail is probably one we're going to use in the essay itself. Ultimately, we have to discover from that reading passage how those improvements to the equipment also boost the athletic performance. So if we can find that detail, we're going to write it down on a piece of paper during the test because it's one specific example that we'll be able to use in the middle part of our essay itself. Now, on the real test, you'll be given paper and pen in the testing centers. So you'll be able to use that to take notes. If you're taking the CAEL test from your home computer, you will be able to use an online notepad. It's called Scratchpad. Same concept, just using technology a little bit differently. But no matter how you do it, you're going to want to gather details and write them down so you can start sorting through those details and organizing them into proper paragraphs. So we're not going to take the time to read through 9 paragraphs today. That would take us quite some time if we talk about it very slowly as we are now. What we're going to do is look at 2 different paragraphs from the long reading passage. So we'll call them excerpts or parts of that long reading source. So I've selected 2 paragraphs that give us lots of details that answer the question at hand here. So at the bottom here, those 3 red arrows, again, summarize what we're doing right now. So together, we're going to skim read this part of the paragraph. We're going to try to find examples of types of equipment, see how that equipment has been changed or improved, and then fully understand how that updated equipment is helping athletic performance. I'm going to give you, say, 15 seconds, if I can, to quickly skim read this through, and then we're going to read it back together and start pulling out details. All right, so please have a quick look and see how many examples you can find. Okay, I'm going to keep going now. If you want to pause this recording, you're more than welcome. If you want to keep trying to find these examples first before I point them out. But let's keep moving ahead now. So I'm going to read out loud this paragraph and I'm going to start circling and underlining the important details as we go. And these are the details that we're going to write down in note 4. All right, so here we go. It starts off with weightlifters use dumbbell bars. Dumbbell bars, that's one piece of equipment. And it's defined as the bars to which the weights are attached. So these dumbbell bars are covered with rubber. So that's how the equipment has been changed, allowing for stronger grips and attempts at lifting greater weights. So we've got enough information here that answers the question that we're trying to answer. So on your note paper or on your scratch pad on the computer, just in very basic terms, keep this simple for yourself. You don't need to worry about grammar or spelling or things like that. So I've just written down in summary, dumbbell bars. I need to mention the type of equipment we're talking about. It's been coated in rubber, and again, it allows better grips on those bars. That also allows athletes to lift heavier weights. So that will be a very fine piece or example to use in the body paragraph soon. So let's keep reading. So this is where we've left off, where that orange arrow is. It says, Using carbon fiber technology developed in the construction of airplanes, lightweight bicycles, so this is the equipment, I guess, that are aerodynamically tested in wind tunnels, now weigh under 4 pounds and can be ridden faster than at any time in the past. Okay, so going back to the beginning of that sentence, I'm noticing that the advancement to bicycles, the way they've been improved upon, is the fact that they are now using carbon fiber technology. And I understand that that technology allows these bikes to be very light, under 4 pounds. And you can imagine, because those bicycles weigh such a small amount, the athletes can pedal them much more quickly. So that's how the athletic performance is being improved upon. So again, we go back to our notes. We're just going to enter that in using whatever short forms make sense to us. Nobody sees your notes, remember. So just write it down so that you can read it. That's all we need to focus on for now. So bikes use carbon fiber technology. They're light, under 4 pounds. That's a short form for pounds. So they allow people to go faster. So we've got that idea covered. All right, there's a little bit more to go. We might have one more example here. So starting at that orange arrow, we have carbon fibers are also used to coat the modern glass and foam arrows. Arrows, that's the piece of equipment, right? Used by archers, making them water resistant, more accurate, and capable of being shot at speeds in excess of 240 kilometers an hour. Okay. So I guess from what we read here, these arrows are using the exact same carbon fiber technology that the bicycles use, by the looks of things anyway. And because the carbon fiber coats those arrows, simply allows these arrows to be shot much more quickly from the bow as they're released, faster than 240 kilometers an hour. So clearly a huge improvement here in the athletic performance in this sport. So we're going to add that in, again, arrows. Now you'll notice in my note here, I've got quotation marks. That's what those two little symbols are called. We use quotation marks in this context when we're actually copying down the exact same word above. So because this also uses carbon fiber, instead of taking the time to write that word out again, because I've already got it right above, I'll just put down those little quotes. So arrows, it says use carbon fiber faster, and it allows the arrow to travel faster and more accurately too. So we've exhausted that first paragraph we're looking at. We've got 3 specific examples of equipment that's been improved and also allows athletes to perform at their best. This is the second part of this long reading passage that we're also going to look at today. So we're looking for more examples. Okay, so again, can I give you about 15 or 20 seconds? Do a quick skim read and see if you can find more examples of equipment, and then we'll talk together. Okay, again, you can pause. I know I'm going a bit quickly, so you feel free, please, to pause the video and keep looking on your own if you'd like. But let's move ahead here and see if we can find a couple or even 3 more examples. So again, I'll just start reading out from the top, and we'll go from there. So it says, in the modern Olympic Games, organizers consult with scientists years before the competition begins to determine how technology can be used to produce the optimum challenge for athletes under the fairest conditions. That's just an introduction to what we're talking about. So no examples yet. We better keep reading. We've got today's swimming pools, for example. So I know it seems funny to think of a pool as a piece of equipment, but really it is, right? Athletes are going to swim in the pool. So swimming pools, for example, have a bumpy rubber coating on either end to give swimmers a better grip when turning at the end of a lap. So we can add this detail to our notes again. So we've got pools have rubber bumpers now, and it allows these athletes to grip more easily and turn. So there we go. Let's leave that in the note for now. We'll keep reading from the orange arrow. It says, not only that, but the pools, so we're talking about the pools again, are equipped with turbulence damping grills. So there's that advancement. This is how the swimming pool has been improved to maximize a swimmer's performance. Turbulence, which is waves in the water caused by the natural movement of air and by the kicking and arm motions of athletes in the pool, can slow a swimmer down considerably. Using damping grills to eliminate turbulence creates a swimming pool with extremely calm water and guarantees that waves don't interfere with the outcome of the race. All right, that's a really long detail, as you can see here in the passage, but I think I understand what's happening. So by putting these grills in the swimming pool, those grills remove that turbulence. So there are no more waves. And of course, if you can imagine an athlete, a swimmer, swimming through very calm waters, well, of course, they're going to be able to swim more quickly. There aren't going to be any waves to slow them down. So in very simple terms, let's enter that into our notes here. We're still talking about the pool, but our second example of how the pool has been improved really is that they've got these grills that eliminate turbulence and allow athletes to swim more quickly. So we'll leave that there. I think we've got one more detail maybe. It says, currently computer technology and engineered mapping systems are making canoeing and kayaking more competitive as well. Right. Race organizers for these boating events use computing software to lay out and build the entire course. I think we're talking about the race course and how it's being improved upon, I guess, because it says here by placing each turn and each rock in locations that make for the most challenging and competitive race. So I gather that within the sport of canoeing and kayaking, again, if you can imagine these boats that are navigating, they're racing, they're navigating this race course to get to the bottom. So it looks like we're actually adding this innovative computer technology. And by using the technology to actually build that race course, again, the race organizers can make for the most interesting or the most competitive course ever by putting these challenging turns and obstacles in the way. So I think I can see how this would actually allow an athlete to perform at their best by challenging them with a more competitive course. It pushes the athlete to develop their skills and demonstrate a higher ability level when they're coming down this type of a course. So I think we can add that into our notes here too. So we'll say race courses in canoeing and kayaking, I specifically, are using computer software to build that course. Okay, so we've got 6 ideas. We might not use them all. We might not have time to use them all. But I think at least by gathering lots of ideas, it now gives us an opportunity to see how our paragraphs are going to come together. So now comes the next step. We'll return back to our outline. This is how we want to structure our essay. We're going to have our thesis statement that answers the question. Let's do that now, I guess. So looking at the question above, again, we're trying to determine, or how we're trying to explain how changes to sports equipment have improved performance at the Olympics. So let's just write down a simple idea to start. This is the focus. We're focusing on changes to equipment, improves performances. I've even got a grammar mistake there, but that's okay. Let's leave it for now. When we start typing, we're actually going to change the wording anyway into academic language. So let's just get the ideas down really quickly. Now, this is only a statement. This is only half the idea. What's missing from this introduction is the how. We have to clearly identify how these changes to equipment are improving performance. And in order to do that successfully, we're going to return to our notes. Here are the 6 examples. We're going to look through these 6 examples and see if we can find some patterns, some commonalities. Because remember, one paragraph can only talk about one main idea, one topic. We can't mix and match all sorts of ideas together. So can you please quickly skim over these 6 details that we've located in the reading source? See if you can find some of them that all talk about the same type of improvement in performance. And I'll give you a hint. There are 3 of them here that actually use the exact same word. So that's your big clue. Can I give you about 10 seconds to find it, and then I'll show you. Okay, a quick scan. You're not even reading. You're letting your eyes fall over your notes and you're trying to look for the same ideas. So I'm hoping you found these really quickly. We've got 3 specific examples here of how these innovations to the equipment actually allow athletes to produce faster results. So all three of these details then can be categorized under that topic. So that first middle paragraph, we call it a body paragraph, is all going to be about faster times. That's the only concept, the only topic we can discuss in body paragraph 1, if we're paragraphing correctly. So those three examples then, we're just going to pull those examples right from the notes we've already made. So we're going to talk about how carbon fiber technology in bikes makes the bikes light and allows athletes to go faster, how the arrows as well are coated in carbon fiber, which also allows them to travel faster, and how these grills in the pools eliminate turbulence, which once again creates calm waters and allows the athlete to swim more quickly. So those three ideas we're going to plunk right here into our examples, into our outline. So our first body paragraph's looking really well organized. So we're very happy with that for now. We should, I guess, it depends on your time, but I'm hoping we've got time to write a second body paragraph. So we've already discussed speed, so we can't go back to these examples. They're done. So I've crossed them off my list. We're not going to discuss them again. We have 3 examples left. Is it possible to find a topic or a category that each of these examples would fit under? And this one's clearly more challenging. You know, when you look at the 3 reasons or the 3 types of improvements that are demonstrated by the equipment, we don't have this similar word repeating like we did with faster. It's a lot harder to come up with the idea. So let's talk it through and see what we can come up with. So because of the rubber coating for the dumbbell bars, again, athletes are lifting heavier weights. So they're being challenged, right, to go beyond what they used to be able to do. That's how I'm reading that. The pools with those bumpers, because those bumpers are installed at the ends, again, there's so much more opportunity for the athletes to have a very solid grip and turn, I guess, more competitively in the swimming pool. Gives them an edge, right? But then they would not have been able to do that earlier before these bumpers were installed. The race course as well. This is an interesting example, I think. So because we're using the computer software to build that challenging course, once again, it is pushing those athletes to really up their skill ability to be able to navigate these challenges. So I think if we look at all 3 of these examples of equipment, we could combine them under a topic that suits something like this. If we just look at how these advancements in or technology and improvements with these equipment pieces are all allowing athletes to demonstrate more competitive performances, right? The challenges push them to work harder and to demonstrate higher skill. I think that works. So again, we'll take these 3 examples that we've been looking at here, and we're going to add them into our outline just there. So you can see again how our essay is coming together. We've got all of our details properly formatted under the correct heading for those paragraphs. So the body paragraph 1 talks about fast times. Body paragraph 2 talks about competitive performances. 2 very different ways and how the sporting equipment is allowing athletes to improve, and we've organized them under the appropriate heading. The last thing I'd like to do today before we log off for the session would be to go back to our introductory statement. So I'm happy with their body paragraphs, but remember up here, we've got a very simple and not entirely grammatically correct even idea about what we're discussing. So let's rewrite this now in sentence form that uses academic language. And we're actually going to use that right in the essay when we start writing. This is our thesis statement. It is the answer to the question above. So let's try that. I'll show you what I've come up with. There are many ways to do this, but this is one attempt here at answering the question. So it says, technological advancements to sporting equipment have allowed Olympic athletes to achieve faster results and demonstrate more competitive performances. So let's break that down and just make sure we're covering our bases, making sure we've answered the question we're being asked. So in the question, you'll notice the word changes. Well, instead of using the word change, because it's a little bit casual or common, I'm using the phrase technological advancements. That's a much more formal or a much more academic way to express that idea. And it also uses my own wording. So I'm not just copying words right from the question. So that part, I think, has been rephrased quite well. The next part, we are talking about sports equipment. So there's not a lot we can change there. All I changed was to sporting equipment just to make it slightly different, but it's more or less the same idea. And the other part of this question that I wanted to make sure I covered was about the Olympics. So I've said have allowed Olympic athletes. And I think that, again, it gets that meaning across. So we've not missed anything from the question. So again, these underlined, the color-coded circles and boxes and underlines, you can see how they match from the question. But part of this thesis, and a really important part of that, again, is to look specifically at how. So you notice how we have those two body paragraphs? Well, we have to identify or introduce what these topics are going to be right here in the introductory statement. So in my thesis, I'm saying that these advancements in equipment allow athletes to achieve faster results and demonstrate more competitive performances. So I would call these your guiding ideas, if you will. So these two specific, very precise examples of how the equipment is allowing athletes to perform better match exactly the organized fashion of our paragraphs below. So in yellow, you notice we've identified achieving faster results first. Well, that's why we're going to talk about the faster times first in the body as well, with all three of those examples. Back in the introduction, you'll see the green underline, where we talk about how athletes can demonstrate more competitive performances. Because we've mentioned that second in the introductory paragraph, we're going to then talk about that one main idea second in the middle of the essay. If you had a third precise example of how athletic performance is improving, you could include that as well up in the introduction. That simply means then you would have a third body paragraph below. So again, putting an essay together, once we get the structure, once we understand how the ideas translate from the source, and when we can see them as we have here visually, how they start to fit together, I think that's very helpful as we're developing this skill. And again, remember, we've talked quite at length today to make sure that we're clear on where these ideas are coming from and how they're organized. On your test, of course, you wouldn't take the amount of time to have this inner dialogue with yourself. It's meant to be done quite quickly. So we're going to leave it at that for today, I think. We've got a very solid outline. In the next episode, when we meet back again, what we'll do is we'll look at how we take the ideas here in this outline and actually write the 4-paragraph structure. All right, so join me then in the next episode and we will finish what we started today. See you then.